people have been making music one way or another for a long time. Music, love, and war have been with mankind since the beginning. Like love, music can deeply affect human emotion. Like war, making music has changed over the years by advances in technology. The most recent upheaval in music has been caused by synthesizers. In the context of hundreds of years of musical instrument making, synthesizers have exploded onto the musical landscape. There are now at least 1,000 different machines capable of mimicking natural musical instruments. There'll be another 1,000 tomorrow. Playing music electronically began with oscillators. You can make your own oscillator with a microphone and an amplifier. The pitch of the note you create depends on the size of the room and the distance between the microphone and the speaker. The distance causes a small time delay that makes the feedback work. The length of time delay controls the pitch. An electronic oscillator is just an amplifier with its output fed back to its input. And electronic components provide the time delay. This is the purest form of electronic vibration, the sine wave. It looks nice and it sounds pure and it has a whole set of mathematics to describe it. The sine wave is created by the same laws as the natural swing of a pendulum. An instrument like a flute provides an oscillation a lot like a sine wave. The length of air in the flute controls the period of oscillation of the note, and by closing holes along its length, the flutist can change the pitch. A trumpet also uses a variable length column of air to control its pitch, but there's an added dimension to the sound. The air in a trumpet is set to vibrating by this. That causes the air column to vibrate not like a sine wave. There's a mathematical principle that says that any complicated repeating pattern like this can be broken down into individual sine waves. You can prove this to yourself with a piece of graph paper and a pencil. Start with a sine wave. Then you add some harmonics. Those are sine waves at 1, 2, 3, 4 times the frequency and so on. You might just start with a fundamental and the first harmonic, just to play around with the idea. If you add up all the points and then plot them again, this repeating waveform results. If you take the sum of 10 or so harmonics, a square wave results. Square waves are very rich in harmonics. The relative harmonic content is one of the factors that makes a flute different from a piano, even though they're playing the same pitch. In electronics, it's simple to create square waves from sine wave fundamentals. You just amplify them real big and take a slice out of the center. Voila! Instant harmonics. Filtering can change the relative content of harmonics for different tonal qualities. The science of this is easy to predict, but the results sound mathematical. The generation of 1960s and 70s synthesizers used that method. The 80s brought FM synthesis. FM stands for frequency modulation. The wave from one oscillator is used to instantaneously change the frequency of another. If the modulating oscillator operates slowly, an up and down sweep in pitch results. If the two oscillators are similar in frequency or even harmonically related, wild and wonderful bent wave shapes are the result. People who understand the math of many different oscillators modulating each other usually have dark circles under their eyes and speak in undecipherable sentences. But the great thing about FM synthesis is that it can be created by ear. Furthermore, they've done away with the jungle of patch cords, and computer technology keeps track of what's connected to what and what the adjustments are. If you really eschew programming, you simply use the thousands of pre-programmed settings that come on floppy disks or plug-in packs. The pre-programmed settings are called voices, and they're labeled things like violin, piano, flute, and the like. By throwing a whole bag of electronics in a synthesizer, most of the other things that make a real-world instrument unique can be synthesized too. One of the most basic parameters of an instrument is attack, sustain, decay, and release. That's a fancy talk name for what happens when an instrument is struck, plucked, bowed, or blowed. A piano exhibits all four characteristics. A sharp attack as the hammer struck, a slightly quieter sustained period, and a gradual decay in volume, and then an abrupt stop as the key is released. All synthesizers had to simulate this, but the 80s generation could do it dynamically. The keyboard not only transmits what key's being pressed, but how fast it was pressed. The key velocity translates to how hard the note was struck. The key velocity doesn't have to control the volume. Some of the prettiest sounding synthesizer voices use the velocity to control the harmonic content. As well, there's a function called keyboard scaling. That allows the instruments to have its characteristics change depending on the note that's selected. One of the most obvious uses of this is to have the instrument go slightly out of tune at the ends of its range, like a lot of real instruments do. The usual control for a synthesizer is by an organ-style keyboard. This presents a problem in the case of synthesizing something like a violin. A violinist can bend the pitch of a note with a tiny roll of the finger and can also control the dynamics and even the harmonic content with the bow action. Most modern synthesizers add a feature to the keyboard called aftertouch. Pressure transducers under the keys tell how hard they're being pushed while they're being held. As well, a pitch bender is standard equipment at the left side of the keys. The pitch bender can be set to provide everything from special effects to the subtle roll of a finger. And the aftertouch can control the other dynamics of the sound. This synthesizer even allows me to play the violin badly. Although you'll be glad to know that I can play the violin badly without a synthesizer. If your mind is boggling at the amount of circuitry that can be crammed into a keyboard, you have to multiply that boggling by 16. This machine's polyphonic. It can do all of this stuff with 16 notes at once. Now, why would you need 16 notes if you only have 10 fingers? Some synths have less polyphony and some have more. Smaller units might be only capable of, say, 4 or 8 notes at a time. We could spend the whole program looking at the other neat things that this machine can do, but it's 10 years old and there are a lot more tricks on the scene.
So essentially, instead of using a simple waveform like a sine wave or a sawtooth waveform, they're using longer waveforms and more actual sounds, actual instrument sounds as waveforms. So for example, instead of using a sine wave as in a DX7, you'd use a piano waveform to simulate a piano, rather than using a whole bunch of sine waves and try to recreate a piano from them. So these machines sound more realistic. And we did sax. It's a sound where I'm manipulating how fast the breath would actually come in. And this is done very simply by stacking two waveforms, and I can say, well, the breath will come in here, or again, I can manipulate it on a velocity, aftertouch, any performance function like that, or modulation. lot of these sounds are also treated with effects, as in signal processing. Now, it used to be that you had to buy a signal processor and stick it on the end of the keyboard. That signal processing is built right into the keyboard. And you can, in fact, change the parameters or the settings on that signal processor in the keyboard and make that part of the sound. Again, this is pretty much a reproduction of the guitar. There's not much in there. You could, by squeezing the keyboard, you get a bit of vibrato. So if you squeeze it, you get that vibrato in a string, and that's called aftertouch, and that's present in most of the keyboards over, say, $1,000. That's a feature that's sort of common. Also, you have the pitch bend, so you can bend the pitch of the sound manually. Organ sounds. I'll do that one. Drum sounds as well. And you can put all these together.
You did that very well.
Here's what happens when you take a 1-second hunk of squiggly waveform and sample it. It's the equivalent of graphing a piece of sound and then choosing a scale and writing out all of the numbers that would let you recreate the squiggle. The more samples you take over a given time period, the better image you can recreate. If some waveform subtlety occurs between your sample periods, you missed it. In digital electronics, this is called you snooze, you lose. Digitally sampling sound with good fidelity creates an astounding stream of numbers. That's why a compact disc can either hold 1 hour of music or every book ever written. Recreating the samples from a compact disc is done at the exact same speed that the samples were taken. If the samples were recreated at a different speed, the pitch of the music would be different.
One of the most exciting technologies to have emerged in the last few years has been the sampling technology, which essentially puts a tape recorder within the keyboard, where you can record any sound and manipulate it by striking the keys. So you can take a sound of a pen striking a glass, and that will give you one particular tone, and by playing it higher or lower, it'll go up or down in pitch. So that's how you would then transfer that into a musical context and make a song out of it, or use it along with other real instruments to create a new sound or a sound that people have not heard. Now I'm going to try to just record something and show you how you can manipulate it on the keyboard. We can set up how long we're going to record the set for. We can say 1 second, 2 seconds. So I'm going to use about 1 second here. La. This is going to be great.
Probably there are a few viewers out there with their mouths hanging open at all of this. Well, prop up your chin. If you are unaware of what's been happening musically, there's another shock coming. All of the things that you've seen so far can connect together. Some time ago, the manufacturers got together and decided on a standard connection that would allow any musical thingy to play any other musical thingy. It's called MIDI, for Musical Instrument Digital Interface. And MIDI now makes almost all music happen. MIDI allows this toy that I bought at Kmart to play my big machine. It allows computers to store and edit instrument voices. All serious music equipment and a surprising number of musical toys now have MIDI sockets. The existence of MIDI has created little boxes full of instruments that can add on to another machine. This little box has 240 built-in voices and can play up to 8 notes at once. Not a lot, but that's enough to add, say, a bass line, a 4-person trumpet section, a 2-note vibraphone, and a solo kazoo. It costs less than a television set.
What we have here are sound modules, and these are the brains of the keyboards. These come separately without a physical keyboard, and they have the same sound chips inside. If you have a MIDI keyboard already, it's not necessary to acquire another whole physical keyboard. You can just acquire the brain. And via MIDI, through a sequencer or a computer sequencer, you can trigger the sounds out of these modules. And all of these can be used in conjunction with each other or separately via another MIDI keyboard or sequencer and or computer sequencer. And of course, the main advantage that a lot of us always think of is the economics of it, and it is a lot more inexpensive to purchase a module than a whole physical keyboard, since this module does have the exact same brain as the keyboard.
Harry Forbes likely has more MIDI plugs than you do. Harry's been providing the music for my programs for more than 10 years. It's also thanks to Harry that the world knows what an Aniston headache sounds like, but everybody needs a day job. This Macintosh computer can control all of Harry's machines. MIDI sequencers like this are available for most home computers, with the addition of a cheap interface. MIDI allows 16 different channels simultaneously, so the basic setup can allow music with 16 different parts. If all of the machines are 16-note polyphonic, that translates to 256 notes playing at once. The computer does all of the things that you would expect. It gives the composer the equivalent of a word processor, with cut and paste, copying of a repeated phrase, and so on. A score could be written entirely with the mouse, but remember, the MIDI interface works 2 ways. Harry can play a part right into the written score. Once a musical phrase is entered, it can be further edited on the computer. For instance, only a few bars of this bass line need to be entered. The rest is the same pattern, raised and lowered a few notes. MIDI only knows which notes, how hard they're struck, and how much the pitch is bent. The synthesizers mimic the instruments, so the instrumentation can be changed at any time. Maybe that honky-tonk bass line would sound better on a glockenspiel. Okay, so it wouldn't, but we could. The musical score can be printed on paper if you like. Harry Forbes is a modern-day one-man band. As a matter of fact, he should watch out. He might be arrested for conducting himself improperly. There's a possibility that some people will find all of this technology distressing. We don't really want little black boxes that sound like a fine natural instrument. There are some benefits. I can play a beautiful sounding piano or a pipe organ at 3 in the morning without disturbing anyone. And I'll never afford a $250,000 grand piano, but I can have a properly weighted 88-key MIDI controller and samples of that piano for the price of a small upright. All of the things you've seen in the program are available for home use too, often in fine furniture cabinets for the living room. Technology's even turned Junior's toy piano into a sophisticated computer. By the time Junior's 5 years old, he or she will know more about the difference between rumba and salsa rhythms than you do. Don't be distressed. People still have to make the music. These things are just the tools. As a matter of fact, there's a good chance that the next Bach or Brahms is sitting in a diaper right now, getting sticky little fingerprints all over a machine a lot like this one.